Merry Vlogmas everybody, and welcome to a video where we're going to be talking about books that are perfect to read in winter. Hello lovely book dragons, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Joanna and I love to talk about books on this channel, specifically fantasy books with a dash of romance. And today I'm going to be recommending some books that are perfect in my opinion for winter. So we have books that are kind of atmospheric and set in winter times. We have books that are just perfect to curl up on our blanket because they're so big and they just make me think of like cozying up by a fireplace with a big blanket during the holidays because you have so much more time. For most people, some people, let's say, more time to read with a warm beverage and just sinking your teeth into a nice meaty book. We have a little bit of all of those things. So let's jump right in. My first recommendation is a book that I started and haven't finished yet, but if you saw my December TBR, it is on my December TBR, and that is The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. This is an author duo, and this book, I started it in June and I was loving it, but I put it down because it wasn't the right time to read it, and I do feel like this December is the right time, plus the sequel is coming out. This one is a ballroom politics kind of book, so if you like that, this is for you. So we follow our main character, who is a con artist, and she decides to con this family in this city because she thinks, great, I'm gonna con them out of their riches. Little does she know though that this family is kind of on the verge of bankruptcy and that they are not as rich as she thinks. And we also have a character called the Rook, and he's kind of masked, and it's just like finding out who he is. I remember having my suspicions when I started this because I got 150 or 180 pages into it. So now that I'm gonna reread it, I hope that this one will just be a 5-star book. I think it's gonna be a 5-star book because I loved it so much. The reason I'm recommending this is because it is big, but it wasn't difficult to read at all. And if you like the ballroom politics and like kind of finding out all those things and putting all those pieces together, and I think that my friend Angela actually also recommended this in her winter recommendations, which I will leave linked down below, and she mentioned that there's like 3 or something types of magic systems in here. I haven't gotten that far yet, and that sounds amazing. So if you're looking for a fun and also like beautiful, I felt so cozy reading this book to read this winter, I think this one could be for you. However, if you're looking for a fantasy that is not as beautiful and nice magic systems, but you just want like to get down to it and like have a lot of action, a lot of fun things, I definitely recommend The Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee. This one is very big, so if you wait for this time of year to read big books that are on your TBR, you could put this one on there because this one is phenomenal. I give this one 5 stars. This one has everything. It has prophecies, animal companions, secret passageways, solving clues. It has everything. It has just like it's such a good fantasy book. I just loved it. I cannot even tell you exactly the whole synopsis because there's a lot going on, but we're following people on multiple parts of this map, and basically there are these 5 warrior angels that from legend of old, and they had weapons and special stones to kind of banish the evil from the world, and these weapons are kind of being rediscovered. There's a prophecy of these 5 warrior angels being reborn in this time. So if you like that kind of stuff, this book is, I definitely recommend. I will leave linked up here a video discussion that I was part of on Abby's channel where I discussed this book with Patrick and Jimmy and Abby, and it was just phenomenal. We all loved it. I still need to read the second one. I'd started it, but I have been in a very big fantasy slump lately. So I put the second one down because I don't want to not like it just because of my mood. So when I'm again in a fantasy mood, I'm definitely going to pick up the second one because it was already just picking up and being great. However, I will say that this is very grimdark, so if you don't want grimdark during the holiday season, don't pick this up. There's some really gruesome scenes in here, so be forewarned for that. But if you do love grimdark and you're looking for a big, nice, epic fantasy to sink your teeth in, I think this one is a very good recommendation for that. Kind of similarly to that one, I want to recommend Malice by John Gwynne. This is a book that I picked up in the winter, which is why I kind of associate it with winter. This is one of my favorite series of all time. John Gwynne has become one of my favorite authors of all time. I love this so much. Basically, here we also have prophecies and animal companions and huge wars with giants and with all those things happening, and it is just so good. I have actually a video up on the channel of why you should read, or should you read Malice. I have it up here. I love this book because it is big, but it's not too big. I mean, it is just roughly over 500 pages, and I loved the characters in here so much. It's like found family for you, for the characters, for everyone. You have animal companions, you have just like these prophecies and just these epic wars going on with the armies of good and evil fighting against each other, and it's just so good. So if any of that sounds appealing to you, I definitely recommend Malice by John Gwynne. I think that these kinds of books that are, this one isn't Viking inspired, but it is kind of like more northern inspired, and that's why I also think of it as a winter read. I actually may pick up the sequel trilogy to this in the winter time, like in January or something like that, because I've been missing John Gwynne, and I kind of associate his books with the colder months, so maybe I will do that because I've been itching to get back to his books. And yeah, this one is a book that I really loved. I know not everyone loves this, which those people are wrong. Yeah, Malice is amazing, and I recommend it. Highly, highly, highly recommend. It's one of my favorite books of the year. And the series is totally completed, so if you start it and you love it, you can binge the rest of the series, which is not the case with the first two recommendations that I gave you. Another series that is complete, and I read the first book, I actually have a vlog on this channel where I read the first book, and that is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I gave this 3 stars when I read it. I will leave the vlog linked up here if you want to check it out. And I don't know what was wrong with me for giving it 3 stars. This is a book that hasn't left me since I read it in January of this year. I absolutely think about this often. I'm itching to get back to it, and I'm actually super excited because my friend Evie is hosting a buddy read for this whole entire series starting in December. I will leave Evie's channel and announcement for this readathon in the description of this video because it's the perfect time. This book is so cold. It's called the Winter Night Trilogy, guys. I mean, you cannot get more wintry than this. You feel the cold when you're reading this. It's like set in old Russia, and basically our main character, she kind of sees the little spirits and the little ghosts, and she gives them offers, but then kind of more like Christian style religion starts coming to her town, and they're not allowed to perform the rituals, their pagan rituals anymore, and then bad things start to happen because of that. And I think that the second and the third one I'm going to enjoy even more than I like this one, but this one is wonderful. I don't know why I gave it 3 stars back then. I think I need to bump it up because I actually really had a wonderful time reading it, and it's definitely a book that has stuck with me more than others that I've read and gave higher ratings to. So The Bear and Nightingale is just beautiful, and I think that it has potential to be even better in the next books, which I will be reading in January and February with the buddy read, because I'm not going to be reading this one because I remember it quite well for something that I read almost a year ago. So if you wanted to pick this up, if you're looking for the perfect excuse, it is now time because it's winter and because there's a buddy read. So maybe you should consider this one. Plus the series is completed once again, so what more could you want? I have another series. It's completed, but I don't know if the translation is completed, and that is Les Fiancés de l'Hiver by Christelle Dabos, or A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos. And this one is, basically I'm going to pitch it to you. If you like Senlin, the Books of Babel, this is the YA kind of version of it in French, but this one I just love, and I need to reread this first book and the second book because I actually want to finish out the series. I haven't done that yet, which I don't know what's wrong with me. It's my eternal problem of unfinished series, isn't it? So this one we follow a main character, and she can, when she touches objects, she can see the past of the object, like who's had it before, what they've done, like kind of that stuff. And she is a not really a librarian, but she's like she works in a museum or something like that on her arch, and like the world has been split into arches like this that float in the sky, and her family has arranged a marriage for her to marry someone from a very different arch, and in her arch everything is very cozy, people are very loving, but where she's going it's not at all like that. It's very much based on illusions, people lie to each other. It really reminds me of the Tower of Babel in that sense, and the third book is called The Memory of Babel and has a tower on it, so I think it is Tower of Babel. So this series is just super fun. It is big, but it is YA, so if you're looking for a YA series, this one is my recommendation for you. Super atmospheric. If you read French, I highly recommend reading them in French because they are so beautiful in French. I have no idea how well they were translated. So, and I don't know if the last one has been translated. I know that the first 3 are translated into English, so if you like it, you can continue on. If not, you can just read this first one. And you can see what happens in other, like what is done in other countries' fantasy world, if you like fantasy. And now onto some standalones. My first recommendation is still like a little bit fantasy, and then we have 2 historical fictions. I have The Invisible Life of Adilari by V.E. Schwab as my next recommendation. This is a book about Adilari, and she makes a deal with the devil, and basically she wants to live forever. She wants to have a lot of time to discover everything, to travel the world, and the devil says sure. It's not really the devil, but it's like a creature of night, and he says, of course I will grant you this wish, but the catch is that everyone she'll ever meet will forget her. So if she walks into a room and she talks to you and you were to leave the room and come back, you would not even remember her, and you could freak out because she's inside your house and you don't remember letting her in. So that is the pitch of the story. This one I recommend for the winter because it's just so beautiful. It's so melancholy, and I want to read these kinds of books in the winter months. It is not cozy enough to be a fall book. It is definitely not a spring or summer book. Therefore, it is a winter book because it does feel a little bit cold. It feels a little bit hopeless at times, yet hopeful. I have a review of it here on the channel, so you can check it out. But if you haven't read this one yet, I know it wasn't for everyone, not everyone loved it, but I definitely loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and I had a wonderful time reading it. It has a lot of quotes of things that I really enjoyed, and we have a past and present timeline, so if you want to read this, I highly recommend it, and it is a good standalone for the season. It reads really fast, so if you wanted to get a one and done in this holiday season, I recommend this book. Now, if fantasy isn't your thing and you want a historical fiction, my first recommendation is Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. In the same vlog where I read The Bear and the Nightingale, I read this one, so the vlog is up here if you want to check it out. And this one is about the last witch hangings in Iceland. So it's northern Iceland, 1829. A woman condemned to death for murdering her lover, a family forced to take her in, a priest tasked with absolving her. But all is not as it seems, and time is running out. Winter is coming, and with it the execution date. Only she can know the truth. This is Agnes' story. So this is based on real life events. So if you want to read something like that, it is very, very harrowing. It's very difficult to read, but it's also very beautiful. And sometimes you're like, you know what's going to happen because it's based on historical facts. But sometimes you just have hope, you know, and it gets crushed. So it's kind of like that, but it's beautiful. I really enjoyed this book. I had it for years on my shelves unread, and I'm so glad that I picked it up this year because I ended up really, really enjoying this book. And finally, a book that I read a very long time ago. I don't even remember when I read it, but I just remember reading and loving it, and that is The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. I think this one has a little bit of like a speculative element to it. I'm gonna read you the synopsis because it's been a very long time. So on a brisk autumn day, so maybe you should read this in the fall. But I'm going to say winter because, as you can see, there's like a little bit of snow on the cover. So, on a brisk autumn day in 1686, 18-year-old Nella Ortman arrives in Amsterdam to begin a new life as the wife of illustrious merchant trader Johannes Brandt. But her new home, while splendorous, is not welcoming. Johannes is kind yet distant, always locked in his study or at his warehouse office, leaving Nella alone with his sister, the sharp-tongued and forbidding Marin. But Nella's life changes when Johannes presents her with an extraordinary wedding gift, a cabinet-sized replica of their home. To furnish her gift, Nella engages the services of a miniaturist, an elusive and enigmatic artist whose tiny creations mirror their real-life counterparts in eerie and unexpected ways. Johannes' gift helps Nella pierce the closed world of the Brandt household, but as she uncovers its unusual secrets, she begins to understand and fear the escalating dangers that await them all. In this repressively pious society where gold is worshipped second only to God, to be different is a threat to the moral fabric of society, and not even a man as rich as Johannes is safe. Only one person seems to see the fate that awaits them. Is the miniaturist the key to their salvation or the architect of their destruction? Enchanting, beautifully written, and exquisitely suspenseful, The Miniaturist is a magnificent story of love and obsession, betrayal and retribution, appearance and truth. And I really love this. I remember reading it, and I remember sitting in bed and just like flying through these pages, flying through the end because I needed to know what was going to happen. I even own 2 copies of this book. That's how much I love it. So there you go, guys. Those are my winter recommendations for you. I think that there's a little bit of something for everyone here, which is what I was going for. So let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these, and let me know your winter recommendations so we can compile a big list of wintry books for people who want to read seasonally this year. If you just want to let me know that you were here, leave a Christmas tree emoji in the comments, of course, and I will see you in 2 days with my next Vlogmas video. We'll hope that we can keep Vlogmas out. And until then, happy reading and happy holidays. Bye, guys.